But expectations really is, for me, determines how I take something in. That's why sometimes you watch something and you're like, oh, this is crazy. And then you watch it again, and you're like, oh, okay. Because you kind of know what to expect, and you kind of take the stink off of disappointment, or the stink off of what you think it should be and stuff like that. But like I said,
sometimes the second viewing makes things better.
Yeah.
You don't have the false hype and stuff, right? The high expectation.
Yeah. You just take it.
I think also a sign of a good story is you can watch it a second time and you're like, shit, this is good, right? It's just as good the second time, right? When a thing is really good and you watch it the second time and you're like, no, I was right, this is really good. That's a great story where you can watch. I'm gonna watch this 20 times. I'm gonna watch Die Hard 20 times, right? And it just fucking works.
But usually that kind of stuff, it hits you right the first time, though. It's not like you learn to love it. It's kind of like you loved it already, and now you get to know a little bit more about her. You get to learn her favorite color. You know what I mean? Or her favorite meal.
Some of my favorite movies are such an emotional punch to the gut. It's like, I don't even know if I want to watch that again.
Yeah, sometimes it can be like that.
Because it's like one of my favorite movies is The Fountain with
Hugh Jackman.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, and I remember Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah.
Okay, dude, that movie. Okay.
Do we need to have a side episode?
You know what? We may have to review that movie. I remember before that movie came out, and I remember all the excitement for it, and I remember hearing stuff about it, and it went through a whole bunch of stuff with production and stuff. And when it did come out, I know it's one of those kind of things that people thought they were getting something simple, and it was like a 3-course meal. And if your mindset wasn't right,
I was like a 12-course meal.
There's no way you could process that, in one sitting, and nor should you expect it. But I think sometimes we get so used to stuff being digestible on the first serving that we're not expecting to have to see something again to understand it. And if you're not used to those kind of movies, or going in knowing that's what it is, either you're on or you're off. And one of those I watched and was like, I didn't love it, but I was smart enough to know it was a lot to it. And therefore I went back and took it in and took my time with it. And I was like, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. Just like some Prince song. Like, I know Prince is a genius. And if I don't like a certain song, I know it's my fault. And I know I got to revisit it later at a later time, because he don't make no junk. So if I'm not getting it, I'm just not ready for it yet. But I'll never disregard the artist. And Darren is one of those kind of artists that I respect. And I just didn't get it at the time. I'll just have to revisit it. But I knew to go back in to rewatch it. And I was like, okay, it's one of those ones that you really just, it's powerful, but it is a lot. And it's not an easy, I won't say, it's not a book, but I'll say it's not an easy read, even though it's a movie.
It's almost 3 books.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's interesting that you mentioned that one. But
that's one of my favorite movies.
Really? I would love to know. Don't tell me now, but I would love to know.
I've probably only watched it 2 times.
I think I've seen it 3 times. But
it's amazing. Like, it's really good. I saw, what was it? His first movie, Pi.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I saw it in the theater.
when it like got a tiny limited release. Like, I went to the city to catch it. Like, I forget how old I was. I might have been.
You had to be young.
I had to have been like in college if I was lucky. It might have even been earlier. But like, I went on like a weekend or like some day off I had. My mom was working in the city, and I went into the office and said hi. And then, because it was playing at the Embarcadero, and I just like, I'll go watch this movie. And I had no fucking clue what I was in for. Yeah. Holy crap.
Yeah, that one, I don't know if I even understood it, but I still liked it because I knew that it made sense. I just couldn't grasp it at the time. But it's one of those ones I ended up buying later on. But yeah, like movies like that, and Memento, and The Primer, and all that kind of stuff. The primer, time travel one, Primer. Yeah, so stuff's like, so certain movies are just like, yeah, those movies don't slow down for you. They don't wait. They don't ask for permission. They just are, and you either on for the ride or you not. And they're not concerned about, you gotta trust the driver that they know what they're doing and where they're going, and you either, like I said, you just have to figure it out.
The other thing with a movie that is, I don't, description maybe sounds too negative, but movies that are really dense, right? Dense in a layered way, right? Where there's lots of information coming across, and it's not like, hello, I'm doing exposition, but like the way we use this color light, the way we do the blocking, right? Things are going on in the foreground, things are going on in the background that are relevant, right? Telling a story in depth, with depth, right? Dense. There's a lot of information being conveyed.
Yes.
Like, you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
You can't be just sort of cruising through the movie where they're gonna serve up sort of everything that you need. Yeah. Like, I would say 90% of Marvel movies are like that, right? Where everything's more or less happening at the surface. Yeah. Right? Which is fine. That's totally a way of doing it.
For the masses, though. It's built for the masses, so that makes sense.
Right? And it's like, if you're watching at home, you can be fiddling on your phone. Yeah. Right? And you get everything that you need. You could watch most of Ahsoka on your phone.
Right. Like, nobody's offended by pizza. Everybody could deal with pizza. Yeah.
But there's other pieces that are like The Fountain, where it's like, you absolutely have to commit yourself to every iota of the screen and what you're hearing and the music and everything else. Yeah. But, Ahsoka wasn't that.
That's fine.
So it goes.
How goes it?
Not bad. Nice. Took the kid down to the gym, the little, the kid gymnasium with Dana, and played in the foam pit and blah blah blah.
Nice.
Not exhausted yet.
All right.
How'd your Friday go?
It's been a crazy week, and the Friday today did not disappoint. It kept in theme of the rest of the week.
Oh man.
So I'm so glad that and it's funny because I was thinking like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna watch me some movies and maybe have me a little something to sip on. And I was too tired for even that. I was like, I'm too tired. I don't want to waste a good sip of something, if I'm gonna pass out anyway.
Right. Just pour me on the couch and turn me over. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So
those days happen.
Okay. I think we better get on this. I think that's a good sign that we probably should go ahead and get on this then. All right, let's do this. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2. Wait. Did you do wait?
Abort.
Abort. Okay. All right. So, did you listen to episode 7?
We made some reference to something, and you restarted the episode. That's what it was. That's what it was.
I hated to even do it, but it's just like,
no, I loved it. And it was perfect.
And it was funny because when you were talking, when that was happening, you was describing it, and you did a countdown. As soon as you did that, I was like, oh, I know I'm going to do right there. And it wasn't even on purpose, but my mind was just kicked. As soon as you start counting down, I was like, you give us a countdown, so I'm going to start all over again.
Oh.
Yeah, that was sometimes I'll just be laughing at myself. I'm like, you stupid, but I just whatever.
As someone that loves a good pun, and not just like the canned pun, which is like, oh, they said the word, I'm gonna do this pun, right? If it's the genuine on the fly in conversation pun, if you can land those, you land them.
Right.
But yeah, it threw me off for a second. I was like, what are you? I'm like, that is not a mistake.
Oh, little Ahsoka's voice. Ahsoka. But yeah, I just want to mention that because I thought it was just funny. I thought like that's like, I hated to do it because because of the flow, but then it was just like, when's the next time you're gonna do like a countdown?
Right.
So I was like,
you gotta
that's
use
cool.
it while it's there.
Right. All right. So 5, 4, 3, 2. It's Jay. I'm back again for another one. And tonight I have with me
Ryan, nerd extraordinaire.
Nerd Extraordinaire. How you be this evening?
Juiced up on guava and orange juice, so my blood sugar is doing great right now. Oh boy.
So, man, we find ourselves already at the last episode of Ahsoka Season 1.
Dave has way too much fun with his episode titles. What was it? The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord? Yeah,
The
there
Warlord.
it is. Man, when I saw that, I was like, Dave,
Yeah.
you having too much fun, buddy. That's it. It didn't throw me off, but it was like, I see you being cute, Dave.
Yeah. And plus it's very fitting. It's very fitting.
Right.
Like, oh, I know all those archetypes. So it's pretty cool. And it was nicely directed by Rick. And I guess his last name is Femue. But he directed this movie I loved called Dope, about this inner city kid. He's trying to get into college, and there's these geek kids at this cool school, and they got to kind of make it through the situation of South Central LA. And it's just really a great coming of age movie.
I remember the trailer for that.
Right? If you haven't seen it, man, check it out.
It is like the smart kid from the hood, trying to get out of the hood, dealing with the hood.
Yes, it was really, really neat, and it was done without being messy. You know, sometimes things can be demeaning, but sometimes stuff have character, and they don't necessarily be the greatest situation, but you could do certain things and express certain things or show certain things without it being put in a bad light. I thought it was like very smart, slick, entertaining, fun, good music, great characters, and very inventive. I thought it was pretty inventive, so it was a cool movie. And he also directed some episodes of The Mandalorian too, some ones that I like. So he's a good director. So it's good to see that he came back. And you can kind of tell in the direction of this episode too. Even though for the most part, all the directors are pretty consistent on the way the episode flows. But then sometimes you have ones that kind of do something a little bit different.
In this one, simply because they're all very consistent style sort of approach. Like there's pacing differences, but I don't feel like one of them's like, oh wow, this one is just wildly different. Like even episode 5 with the big sort of dream sequence, nothing really stands out. So I think Rick did a very competent job with this episode. I think if there's weaknesses, it's the same weaknesses as most of the other episodes. Right. I think like we were saying right before we actually started recording, it was like there's a lot of action, but at the same time, like I was like, how many things actually sort of happen, like plot wise, emotional beat wise? And there's not much.
Right.
It feels like it moves really fast through everything.
I'll give it that, because normally
it doesn't drag. It doesn't drag.
Yeah.
I'd say the action's pretty good. There's a couple bits where I was like, ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of go through it.
Let's get into it.
All right. So this episode starts off with the notification that the cargo is complete and they're pretty much ready to ship out.
Right.
And so you pretty much have the ship, and you have Thrawn there, and Morgan and Elsbeth, goes over to him and just kind of gives him the update. And I have to admit, like, I'm enjoying Thrawn and how, you almost got to kind of read his responses. His responses are not typical of characters. And so it's kind of interesting to see, either his lack of a response, and then the person who's speaking with him having a response to him and his lack of response, which I think is pretty cool to see. And so seeing how things have been going so far, even his answer to Elsbeth about having everything ready to go, because he's simply like, oh, well, I think we need more time, even though, and she's kind of like, okay, if you say so, kind of thing. And it's just like, here's the pieces being moved, and what will this add up to possibly? And then we also, in the same beginning, we get where the sisters get together and they want to give Morgan a gift, and it's a makeover.
Yeah, I liked this scene of her getting sort of her upgrade.
Is this normally the process for them? That's how they get to look the way they look and all that? Or is it? I thought it was just their.
I haven't come across a thing where we see that process happening. Now, I haven't seen all of Clone Wars, and definitely the Night Sisters are handled in more detail there. So it might have been something that was shown in Clone Wars, but I had not seen sort of this ritual / ceremony of her. I think she becomes a mother. I could be wrong. She might just,
because they refer to her as being a sister, like being one of them, like refer to her as a sister, and I believe they called it a gift of shadows, is what they bestowed on her.
Yes, that sounds about right. So she gets an upgrade. They burn some green fire into her face, and her eyes go dark, and like all that sort of stuff, and she starts to take on the same sort of complexion and sort of dark spots over the face. I thought it was cool. And usually you get heroes that are asked to make big commitments to things, right? And I think these two scenes kind of are close to each other in sort of the timeline of the episode. But Morgan basically gives herself over to the Coven, right, to become a mother, right? It's very clear. It's like, this is a one-way thing. Like, there's costs to this, right? Power isn't free, right? They don't say that, but they say that, right?
Because they're basically saying, like, you saying goodbye to your old life and you're going to accept this new one. It's almost like a baptism. Like you will be changed.
It really felt on par with that. And then I don't know if it's the same scene or right after, but I know later we also get Thrawn's night troopers basically volunteering to go down and defend the tower. And like, at one hand it's like, okay, they're all volunteers for this action, okay, they're gonna hold the line. But we realize later what they're really volunteering for with the Night Sister magic, which was like, there it is, there it is. Interesting to see the bad guys, as it were, being the ones to put themselves on the line. For Morgan, it's not for Thrawn, it's for the Night Sisters, but it's to defend Thrawn, to allow the Night Sisters to get out, and it's Thrawn's night troopers that are putting themselves on the line for Thrawn to get out.
Because it was interesting, because Thrawn's like, kind of like, who are they? And Elsbeth was like, those are the volunteers. They're volunteers for you. And he said, not for me, for the Empire. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I got you.
That's so. That is very much Thrawn.
Okay.
So, one of the things that makes Thrawn so likable, he's the villain, but he has very likable qualities, just like we were talking with like Balin, right? There's aspects of sort of his presence and persona that's like, oh, that sounds cool. But somewhere, I think it was in one of the first Thrawn books in the old Legacy stuff, they come across Luke Skywalker's damaged like X-wing, and they're like, hey, Thrawn's like, hey, tractor beam that X-wing and bring it in. And Luke like basically jury rigs his hyperdrive to break loose, right? And so in the Empire, there's all this thing where it's like, if someone fucks up, they're dead, right? And so Thrawn's like, all right, well, let's go down to like the tractor beam area and find out what went wrong. right? Goes down, talks to the ensign. The ensign's like, well, he seemed to do this, so I tried this other thing and this other thing, but that didn't work, and da-da-da-da. And it was like, interesting. All right, none of those things should have worked. And then he turns to the ensign's superior and like asked about his training process, and it was like, oh, we never covered these contingencies, da-da-da-da-da. And Thrawn's like, well, it's your fault then. It's not the ensign's fault, right? The ensign actually tried to improvise.
Okay.
Right? That's initiative, but you didn't train him right.
Okay.
You're going to train him right. He might have made it, executed him or whatever. But it was this idea of like accountability where accountability is supposed to be.
That makes sense to something that I didn't quite understand. Later on, there's a situation where somebody is sent to task. They tried to do something and they failed. And he made a note.
I think what he said was note their names, right? As in like mark their names and add it to, the list of people that died in combat.
I thought you mentioned something about their leaders.
Either he's like, hey, they died doing their duty, mark their names. Either he's giving them respect in that way, or if it's the way you heard it, where it's like, hey, clearly demote whoever their training officer is. That's still the same thing of like, I either respect the person or I hold the person responsible for them accountable. Because
I definitely took it as him being, thought it was right on that they tried, but they failed. Because I think it was the TIE fighters who didn't respond back. And he wasn't like upset with them, but he almost like felt, like note that it put that on the commander. That's why I thought it was kind of weird. Like, why he mentioned them? What do they have to do with it? But and that's like a good leader, and that's somebody kind of reading the truth of the room versus trying to be in feelings. Because a lot of times our anger and our feelings about something is with the wrong situation.
Right.
Sometimes we're blaming the person and not the system. Blaming the worker that can't do anything, but it's like, who's telling them to do? The rules are in line to make that a problem. It's not they're just following what they're supposed to do. The problem is not on them necessarily. It could be on the situation, the rules, the setup.
And Thrawn is definitely a systematic leader.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really nice, and it's also kind of probably keeps everybody on their toes, because you cannot have a fall guy, because he will see past that and know to give it to you and not the person you pushed out in front and try to put it on the innocent person or the person who's like, this whole system can't be falling apart because this little piece here, when you steered the piece or you directed the piece, accountability starts at the top, and which is the total opposite of our world and our society. It's the opposite. It's like the bottom gets blamed for what the top is doing. And it's amazing.
I think good leadership quality that Thrawn has, and we see it in some of the previous episodes with 6 and 7, right? When he shows up, in the way that he's talking to Morgan, because functionally it's Thrawn's explaining to the audience his thought process, right?
Yeah.
But it's taken as sort of he's teaching her, he's mentoring her a little bit, right? And Thrawn is always looking for people that are looking to better themselves, and so if they're willing to put in the effort, he's willing to teach, right? Which again is a rare quality in sort of a lot of real world sort of authority figures. Like, when you get actual mentors like that, you hold on to them. It's just too bad he's working for the fucking Empire.
right. And I love how he doesn't move out of fear. Like, he'll know what something is, and he respects it and try to almost steer it onto itself versus trying necessarily, you know what I mean? It's almost like the respectable thing. Like, I'd rather outwit you than to just take you out. Taking you out is too easy. I can use you to take your own self out. I like this type of villain. I haven't seen it quite done like this. And
there's a quote by Napoleon that is, never interrupt an enemy when they're making a mistake.
Dang. Okay. I love it.
This is one of my favorite of strategic quotes.
Well, his biopic coming out soon, so
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, coming out soon.
That's right. But the other interesting thing, when Morgan gets her upgrade from the mothers, is they summon a sword for her.
The blazing green sword, the blade of Talzin.
Yeah, I was like, all right, whatever, cool name, sure.
Is that
And
real? Like, is it the dark sword?
I don't know.
Okay.
So that might be just like so the Night Sisters can summon stuff.
Okay.
That is a thing that's established, like even in Jedi Fallen Order. Was it not Fallen Order? The second one, Jedi Survivor, right? God, I can't remember her name. But Cal's Night Sister friend, companion, she's able to like summon daggers and staves and stuff like that when she's fighting. So that didn't throw me off. But it's clearly meant to be like a badass sword, and of course it's wreathed in green flame, Night Sister flame, and it allows her to eventually fight against the lightsaber with a non-lightsaber. Opens up some possibility. When we get to that fight scene, I got positive things to say.
Okay. It's funny, when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I think there's a lot of stuff going on here with magic and stuff that kind of tripped me out, because I'm not usually associate those things with Star Wars. So I thought it was kind of interesting, just some of the stuff that was kind of going on and behind the scenes stuff that probably was happening, but I never seen before. So the sword, and for it to be that type of sword and everything, but it was cool. And also the first thing I thought is like, finally this actress get to flex and do what she does for real, because she's really a martial artist. So I'm like, okay, so because it's almost like, I thought it was interesting and very restrained, that I was like, okay, she got skills in real life, and the fact that they're not using her like that, I think that's very interesting. But as soon as I saw her get her little handy dandy, green glowing sword, I was like, oh, it's on. Okay, now she gets to flex. The actress.
Yeah, and even God, it was only a few weeks ago. I think it was right before even you told me that she is Bruce Lee's goddaughter.
Yeah. Diana Lee in Ahsoka.
Right? I had no clue. Even from when she showed up in the Mandalorian episode with Ahsoka and had that amazing fight, I was just like, oh, all right, she knows what she's doing. Like, it just sort of slipped under my radar, but like looking at the fight scene later that she's in, it's like, oh yeah, okay, now it clocks. There was good stuff in that fight scene, and it was clearly her.
I thought the same thing too. It's like, Ahsoka, she's doing fine, but it's something when you have somebody who really know what they're doing going against it, it's like she's not keeping up.
When we get to the fight scene.
Okay.
Nice thing to say. And then just back on the TIE fighter thing. So if I had one quibble with Thrawn's reaction to the news that his TIEs got shot down, because what they reported back before they were destroyed, that they made contact and that they were attacking Ahsoka's ship, and then he hears nothing else, right? So there's a little bit of assumption being made that the ship was taken out.
Yes.
Right? That was the thing, is like, you don't know, Thrawn. So just a sideline of like, keep 4 TIE fighters on standby until we are in orbit, just in case her ship has not been destroyed. Right? That's it. Because then Thrawn's covering bases. Because, man, we saw what 2 TIE fighters could do. 4 TIE fighters or more, right? Not those pithy little snub fighters from the hyperspace ring, right? That didn't manage to shoot down Ahsoka's ship. But if it was, a swarm of TIE fighters, would be screwed. So just him covering that base, right? The air approach would have been nice, but it's kind of a minor quibble. Back before the TIE fighters actually do their attack, we get sort of Ahsoka and Sabine and Ezra, and they're just slow rolling with the bug people, right? And why are you slow rolling with the bug people? Why are you slow rolling?
I was wondering the same.
You should fucking go to Thrawn immediately.
Right.
It'd be one thing if it's like do a quick scene of Ezra saying bye-bye and go.
And you could tell how important that really was, because after everything kind of went down the way it did, they went without him anyway. So it goes to show how that wasn't really a factor. Like, what were they going to do exactly?
I think the writers are trying to find a way to have the outcome of their ship gets taken out, so they have to do the ground approach, right? Because if you just play out the alternate scenario where their ship is functional, well, we don't get the cool tower approach thing,
Right.
blah 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 blah, right? So they found a way to take out Ahsoka's ship.
Yep. And
without everyone getting killed.
And then also the timing was very, I guess, good, because during that time Ezra was working on a new lightsaber, and then we also got a chance to have him have a conversation with Hu Yang, and they kind of give information and it's teased about how old he is. 'Cause I remember you told me he's older than Yoda, so that was kind of teased, because he's like, so how old is you? And then he didn't really give the answer, but he kind of suggested that he's been there for a long time. And a matter of fact, when Ezra told him who taught him, how to make a lightsaber, he said, I trained him. I taught him, and then checked them talking about the type of kid he was.
Right.
So that's how. So
like,
he was.
I'm at least old enough to know your master when he was a kid.
Right. So he kind of like
make
checking
his lightsaber.
Exactly.
And it's like Ezra's whole thing is he's trying to build, and this isn't explicit until later, where he's trying to build a lightsaber and he's basing it off Kanan's design, right? Which is why I can't get this emitter to fit line up. And then Hu Yang is like, oh, well, here's the same piece
he
the
had
master
an
used
just in case
for his emitter, kept the backup, and it fits for Ezra's lightsaber because he's basing it off of Kanan's design.
Yeah.
And it's like a nice moment of like another master apprentice.
Yeah, and it served more than one purpose. It gave some backstory about two characters at the same time, and also during that conversation and talk, because Ezra was like, finished with the piece and stuff, and then he was about to ask Sabine about her and her training, and Sabine kind of just disappeared and left.
Right.
And he asked Hu Yang, like, what's up with them two? And then we finally get some backstory on the situation. And it's funny because it would have kind of lent to have the information before, like when she's trapped and she's dealing with Anakin, and you wonder what's this conversation is about. And she was afraid of Sabine possibly be turning dark. And kind of pieced it together, but it would have been nice to kind of have this before that to kind of understand what she was kind of going through. Because I knew she'd been through some horrific stuff, and you knew that she had some abandonment issues and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, their conversation, their dealings didn't quite tie for me for whatever reason. But when that was said about how she's being afraid and kind of backed off of her because she didn't know if she's going to turn, and she's, gun shy of the fact that people that's close to her turning, potential Jedi's turning. I love that. Okay, cool. Say that. That would have been great. It lines up together.
Give us that in episode 1 or 2.
Exactly.
Let us play through that whole theme.
And you know
question.
What? If they would have had that conversation, Hu Yang and Ahsoka, when she was training her in that room, and they left, and remember she didn't talk to her, and they was kind of talking around each other, and then she went into the cockpit, and they was kind of talking back and forth and still not saying anything, but she's talking. Why wasn't that said then? Ahsoka, you was afraid to continue on, and I wish that you could have, spoke to her and not have been afraid of what could potentially have happened because of what happened to you and yours, something. And so when she had to face Anakin later, okay, I know what this is about. And I already knew it was about the Padawan and the Master. I knew that already, but not how it tied in with Sabine, because it was just like she just left. You didn't know she left because of personal reasons or whatever, but that just added so much more. And I just kind of wish that would have been a conversation said. And the funny thing about it was this still didn't come out of Ahsoka's mouth. It still came out of somewhere else, but I'll take it because I didn't get it nowhere else. But I still didn't even get this from Ahsoka, and it still wasn't discussed between them two, even though she goes outside and they talk and have a conversation out there.
Well, so I agree with all the it should have been brought up before. Within this episode, the scene of Ezra with Sabine watching as he's building the lightsaber, and then he turns, hey, and she's gone.
Yeah.
And then she's out talking with Ahsoka. So her, Sabine, running away from an uncomfortable thing with Ezra, right? Her still maybe not quite on the same page with Ahsoka. Like Ahsoka's much more like, hey, this was sort of like my bad, I was holding back, blah 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 blah. They're trying to set up for Sabine later in the episode to make her choice, because she's going to have to choose between going with Ezra or standing with Ahsoka. Right? And they're trying to make it so that we genuinely question which one she'll do. Right?
Right.
And so remember when we were doing Wakanda Forever, and I was like, I don't buy series like, oh, is she gonna kill Namor? Is she gonna go for revenge? And I'm like, no, she's not. Like, she's not. I never bought it.
Right.
With this episode, didn't think Sabine was gonna go back. I thought when we get to that big thing where like they're at the bridge and she gets Ezra across, I thought she was gonna go with him.
I did,
but she didn't.
Too. Yeah, I did too. But I did think it was that struggle about that being a thing was heavy. But then that could have just been because of her making her decision in that moment, not knowing there was another decision behind that one.
Yeah.
I don't think she knew she was going to have to make that decision, right? It wasn't like with the map, right? Like her and Ahsoka had the conversation at the ship of like, can I trust you to do the right thing? And it's like, I'm not, don't worry, it'll be fine. Her avoiding the whole thought process, right? There was no setup of Ahsoka in this episode they didn't foreshadow this choice of her letting Ezra go and sticking to help Ahsoka instead. So yeah, all the other things about, dude, they should have set up what was the actual tension between her and Ahsoka with their master apprentice thing way earlier, blah 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 blah. But at least the work they did in this episode to set up Sabine and her choice, I think, worked.
Yeah, well, I'm glad they just didn't just brush over it, but they did kind of touch. So when Sabine went out and Ahsoka's outside on top of the ship, they do have a slight conversation about her choices, and she wasn't mad at her. She had more of an empathetic feeling about it. So she's like, like I know, basically, and I'm not holding it against you, basically. Like, I understand it had to be a hard decision and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. And not typical, because normally it's this whole thing, but I dug how it was handled as far as her understanding.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, especially since, well, if you haven't watched the episode already, I can't imagine you've watched the episode already, dear listener. So Ahsoka doesn't leave; she stays behind, and so now we have Baylan, who seems to be a healthy master with Shin, and we've got Ahsoka, a healthy master with Sabine. Granted, Baylan and Shin are split up, but whatever. It's like now we actually have two healthy master apprentice relationships. It's unheard of in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the ties, they shut down the ship, which means, of course, as I guessed, they're gonna have to do the ground assault, and they're gonna have to fight their way up the tower. And we get the whole setup of like the night troops are going down to the tower, and they're going to be the frontline defense. And I think for the most part, the combat sequence that works, the assault on the tower, works fairly well. One of the things that they could have done to just make it a little better was setting the playing board, because we didn't really know the layout of the tower. Right. We know the Sabine left on the ground, right? So we kind of vaguely, like the whole gate and the entryway area, we didn't really understand where that was. It was all a little bit disjointed when Sabine left, right? They're like clearly in a big room when she gets on the platypus wolf, right?
Yeah.
And then she goes out, but we don't really understand that physical location coherently. And then there's a bunch of stairs with doors that's not set up. That's the first time we see the staircases and the doors. And then we get that middle room that has a hollow projector, and then we get the top of the tower which has the hollow projector, and like you kind of vaguely assume the middle room's in the middle of the tower, and then there's stairs. So the layout of the tower wasn't laid out ahead of time.
It wasn't, and if I found myself kind of curious because I couldn't tell if they was on a ship yet or not. I couldn't tell, so I'm like, how close are they?
It's like, wow, that looks like the same sort of black stone material. It must be inside the tower,
right? Like I couldn't tell exactly how close they were
because you could have had a very short, quick scene. And again, if you want to do the whole like Thrawn's kind of mentoring / teaching Morgan, it's like he's explaining the strategy, and it's maybe after Captain Enoch has like set up the troops, right? And so it's like the volunteers are going down to the bottom floor. They're going to set up an ambush in that room, turn it into a kill box. We got all the spiral staircases with 4 blast doors going all the way up. We can close those, which they don't. They don't close the blast doors. They let the good guys close them after them.
They use the force to hold it open.
You say, this is where I want you to be, waiting in case they get through the kill box, and then up at the top we'll have whatever last minute defenses. We'll have our 2 death troopers up at the top and maybe a couple snipers, right? You set up all the things the heroes have to get through.
Right. He pulls off what he wants to pull off, but it seemed kind of messy the way it was done because it wasn't clear how it was working out. Like it worked out in his favor.
Right.
But I would have liked to see.
It didn't feel tight.
Yeah, I would like to see how that happened because I was more confused than I was thinking like, oh, that's slick. Like you said, if you just set the kill box, like I said, that would have made sense, and that gave like little trappings for the situation. Versus, I'm just confused. I don't know where. I just know people are fighting and doing stuff, and I don't know how it ties into the clock that's ticking that we're running out of time.
If they had like the heroes have to realize that there's a clock, so they have to get their ass moving, right? For whatever reason, they find out the clock is ticking, right? Either like the hyperspace ring like flies maybe not directly over them but like over near the horizon, and they're like, oh shit, they're bringing it down now, we need to go, right? Apparently Thrawn's engines are too damaged, he can't make it up into orbit, but that means it's coming to pick him up now, we gotta go, we're out of time. Clock starts running. You cut between them getting their wolf platypuses, hauling ass, to Captain Enoch going down through the tower, double checking all the defenses that they've set up. So now we know where everything is, and we know everything is raged against them. When it comes to the bottom room, which should be a kill box, did not set it up as a kill box.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It like, okay, you're not gonna barricade the doors.
Yeah.
Okay, don't barricade the doors because you want them to get in so then you can kill them, right? You want to maximize firepower. And this might be one of those things of like they don't want it to be this brutal of a combat, but I would have them set up an E-Web repeating blaster, which is basically a Star Wars machine gun. The Empire would have that. You set it up on the stairs. You set up, sandbag barricade around it. You get all the stormtroopers not up on the stairs, right? Because they come into the room and then the troopers come in. No. All the troopers are in cover, ready to open fire from go.
Right.
And then you take it to the next level. You have them come through. Oh shit! The E-Web opens up. Maybe it kills one of the platypus wolves. They scatter for cover, which is where, on either side of the door, in one of the little alcoves where you would go and seek cover, Captain Enoch had them put claymores. You make it a death trap so that they're surviving. It becomes all the more crazy and impressive. And like to their favor, it felt like by the time Ahsoka got up to the top for the last fight, she was tired.
Yeah.
Right? She was slow, but they didn't make the Imperials, and this is our problem with Wakanda Forever, is they didn't make the Imperials feel extra competent, right? Which if they're competent and the heroes overcome them, then the heroes are just that much more competent, right?
And the thing is, we had the time for it, for sure. But then also, okay, so after the TIE fighter attack and they're destroyed, we get a scene of Thrawn being notified that the TIE fighters had a successful attack. We don't hear from him anymore. And he asked, like, what was the outcome? And he was like, and they told him, like, okay, we found them, they attacked, but we don't hear from them. And that's when he was saying, like, that's an acceptable outcome. Like, they did their mission. And what he had said to him in response was, like, even though he said it was an acceptable outcome for them, the TIE fighters, he said to mark their captain for citation.
There it is. Yep, mark them for citation.
Right.
Because they died in combat doing their job.
Okay. So with that, it had been time to set something up or prepare. And they knew they were on their way. And so instead of just throwing something out like that, especially when you know as strategic he is, like just a straightforward attack with Ahsoka or any Jedis, because he know how they are. It just seemed like it would be unlikely. Like he would. Other times he's played them against themselves, though. It's almost like keep that consistent. You can't just be, strategic for the front door, but you leave the back door open. You kind of got to keep the same energy both places. So I thought it was kind of interesting.
And even having just a small side comment of like, we're gonna keep the Death Troopers in like a small squad on the top of the tower, because they're coming on foot, I don't trust them to not have some way to scale the outside of the tower and bypass all our troops and our traps, because they're goddamn Jedi and you never know. Right?
That's how he's been dealing with them the whole time. Even when everybody's thinking like, that's weird. Like, I know what I'm dealing with. Like like he was concerned, like I said, and I loved it. And it wasn't like fear, but it was almost respect of the situation. Like if this falls, it's not because I underestimated you. Like you can win, that's fine. But I'm not gonna give it to you and act like I don't know who I'm dealing with either.
Right. And like the doors, this may sound stupid and petty, but like they left all the doors. There's multiple blast doors from the bottom floor up to the middle section that were open. And the thing we're skipping is that they kill everyone on the bottom. They kill all the night troopers, and they're like, okay, now we got to go up the tower and da-da-da. And then the mothers activate their magic, and they reanimate all those troopers, and they start zombieing themselves up. And it's like, here we go. And
darkness falls across the land. The midnight hour is close at hand.
Part of me was excited, part of me was confused, and part of me was like, okay, along with the blazing sword and the other stuff, it's just like, and the magic, it's like, what am I watching? What is
Watch
this?
Star
Wars. Right. like
I will say this is a very Star Warsy episode.
Star Warsy, new Star Warsy? Or what do you mean?
Like, come on. The Jedi have always been fucking space wizards. So, like, we got some space witches.
Without the evidence of it then. Okay.
Because it's new and you're not used to the Night Sister shenanigans. I can see it being like, what the fuck is happening?
The Jedi, the space wizards that I'm used to is more David Blaine and less Chris Angel. You know.
It's way more magic-y magic.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's way more magic-y magic. Yeah. So they reanimate the night troopers. That was their actual sacrifices. They were going to be willing to be reanimated, and kind of like, you're probably going to die, and then we're going to reanimate you.
Right. It went straight Thriller up in there.
They're kind of a threat, but they're also zombies. Like, if they played up the horror aspect more, I think it might have worked a little bit better. But it's also like, this is Disney Star Wars, and like, you get a little bit of it where, like, later when Sabine's fighting the Death Trooper, like, part of his mask is up, and it's like, you don't really see it, but it's like, clearly he's a corpse.
Yeah, it's more for a cool zombie than it is a scary zombie. And to be honest, I think they were just as effective as zombie as they were when they were alive, to the point where they even grabbing people and trying to choke them out. So
some of them were actually
they couldn't even do that. Right. They couldn't even do that when they were alive.
Yeah.
So to me, I think they were better dead, because at least if they got knocked down and shot, they would get back up again.
Right.
Because how do you get rid of them? How do you stop them? They're moving just as slow. They had to aim just as bad. Like I said, I've never seen no trooper grab anybody before. So they got a lot further than the traditional alive troopers we normally deal with. Even though they walked with a limp.
Yeah, well, and that's they were undead, but they weren't extra scary.
Yeah.
Right? They weren't an extra threat.
Right.
And then they're going up the stairs, and like I was thinking, if I didn't want them getting in, I could close all those blast doors, and instead the heroes go through the blast door and then close it on the zombie troopers. Eventually the zombie troopers blow a hole in it because they got explosives. Whatever. But like having it where they have to cut their way through a blast door while they're being attacked.
Right.
And then like one of the things I was thinking about was like Sabine is really fucking smart. Right? We see that with the map, right? She's really good with tech. And I would have loved it if like they get through the first door, they cut their way through, and they realize, oh shit, there's a second door. They cut their way through the second door, and as they go through, she pauses to see where the control panel is. She's like, got it, left side. And they run up to the third door, and instead of them cutting their way through the blast door, she goes over to the side and cuts through the back of the panel because she knows it's on the left side. Cuts through the back of it, reaches in, fiddles some wires, and opens it in like 3 seconds. Right? Where it's like, oh, she's adapting to the situation. She realizes like it's the same door every time. The controls on the left side. If I just bypass the like something that's not just, hey, we're gonna close the door on the zombies. It just
and then also instead of that creative way of showing how smart and strategic she is, instead they had a scene where they had Ahsoka letting her know to go ahead and telling Sabine to use her blaster. And I'm thinking like, why would she have to tell her to use her blaster in this situation? What?
I read it as like, you're not gonna block those blasters yet, right? Because she hasn't got her connection with the Force yet, right? And it's one thing to be like, look, you're gonna be way more effective if you are offensive and shooting with your blasters. You've got Mandalorian armor, just fucking shoot.
I think she gave her good information. I'm just thinking, why would she figure that out for herself? Is my point.
That would have been a better character moment.
I would think that she would have. If we talk about how smart she is, I'm saying she shouldn't have to be told to use her blasters in that situation.
Right.
I don't think it's wrong that, of course, if she's not using them, hey, pull it out. But if that's your thing, why aren't you doing that? And so,
and also just having her just say a thing like, this is not a time for defense, and put the lightsaber away and put out the blasters and just
or something. If you want to make it like a lighter situation, but really she shouldn't have to tell her to do that. One, that's her thing, and two, she should read the room.
So another even thing with that initial kill room was, and this is, you have to reach back into the previous episode where they have the big fight with Shin and all the other night troopers, blah 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 blah. They beat all the night troopers, right? And they beat a bunch of them. Twice. So you could set it up where it's like, even in that fight, have one of the night troopers, the stormtroopers, like throw a grenade. So like it's established they have grenades. So I can totally see Sabine looting all their corpses and just having a satchel full of fucking grenades.
That'd be tight.
And so when they get ambushed, she's like, here, I got your friend's toys, setting one of the grenades to explode and then chucking the whole satchel to a giant group of stormtroopers, right? Like at the big riot in Andor, just boom!
And that makes sense too.
That would show thinking ahead.
And then also it would kind of give you a reason for them not to keep coming at them, because they did come at them because they showed them closing the door and then behind it kind of groaning and stuff. But that would have been clean because they wasn't never going to stop, and they probably would have figured a way in. So that would have cleared the board to be like, you're not coming back regardless. They have, what is it, sensitivity readers, right, where it's like, you're some white straight male author and you've got a bunch of minority characters, right? Different ethnicities, different religions, the whole thing is like, okay, now I should go take this draft and put it in front of some people from those groups and give me feedback so I'm not being fucking racist, right? So I can control tone. They need like
a make your character slightly smarter sensitivity reader, right? Where it's like,
this is called good writers.
well, there's lots of readers can definitely go on sort of an emotional level and a sensitivity level, but like the sort of the tactical thinking thing, like it's not everyone's wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like they could have smartened up both sides of the engagement and still have it totally followable by everyone.
But we're dealing with the writer of the characters and who have displayed these things in another medium. So it's not like the dad don't know their child. That's the weird part. Now, if you're out your wheelhouse and you have somebody from the street that's like, oh, I never did this before, want to have a try, come on in. And you need somebody to kind of touch up your fight scenes or touch up this kind of stuff, then yeah, you have that person. But this is the actual person who created them and who has dealt with them. And like, if anybody had any kind of like, oh, that's a good pull, it would be him, right? Okay. I don't know. If it had a different writer, it'd be different. But I think even a different writer would be almost throwing some extra stuff up in there. I don't know. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Because really, I think sometimes the lack of that stuff comes from, and this is with, even like we were saying, even if it was like talking about a character that was a different race, what those people are doing, like I said, the sensitivity readers, what they're doing is knowing more about that person or that culture, that little details that could be used to be pulled into the reasons why and how things move. You know, the little nuances that's not there.
For a show and a setting about war,
yeah,
maybe get a retired general. I don't know. I'm just like, hey.
Or watch the History Channel or something, but something.
But you know, whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is. They didn't have all the extra. It didn't make it bad. It just made it sometimes in the moment and sometimes later. Like, well, wait a minute. What? Why aren't you? What? Right? It didn't for me like ruin the whole thing at all. No. But it was just like, it could have been better. It could have been better.
I guess without style of it, and it's just like a room full of bad guys. I just started noticing how Ahsoka was just kind of flipping her lightsabers.
Left, right.
Overlap. You know, just kind of like, you know, like she's counting them or something, like, you know. And I think it could have been shot, or it could have been set up a certain kind of way where it didn't feel like, oh, she's getting tired and I'm getting tired of seeing her getting tired. Like, she's earning it. So it's not like she's going to be fresh with that slew of bad guys, but it was just, I don't know. I think it could have been, like I said, if it was some kind of other thing that, like you said, the blocking and getting them trapped in here, some kind of strategic kind of thing that we could feel tense about versus like, okay, how long are we gonna be in this room? It would have felt different. It could be the same thing,
the tension,
but felt different.
Didn't feel there,
right? So to see them going through all that emotion, it was just kind of getting monotonous a little bit.
And you know, with her fight with Morgan, especially when she gets finally to the top of the tower, like both of them. I know we're not jumping ahead, but like they both look tired. But I would have loved to have seen all the way from them getting through the gate in the tower, all the way up of just, this is hard.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Of like the first time they get through that blast door, just a moment, like it gets kind of cheated because they get jumped by more zombie troopers.
Yeah.
Right? But just a moment of them going like,
right.
Okay. Right. Catching my breath. And then it's like, oh, they're putting a bomb on the other side. We gotta go. Right? Just have them be more haggard, right? Yeah. Like not because they're old, but just like fighting's fucking hard.
Yeah,
right. It makes it more dramatic where you're running out of gas.
That reminds me of Obi-Wan, right? And Maul's like a pit bull, like he's pacing, sitting there meditating and just, you know, like getting ready for the next round.
Qui-Gon's like calming down, back under control.
Yeah.
But Maul's the caged animal,
just like,
and Obi-Wan's just like, open the gate.
Open
the gate. Oh, and the gate's open, and he runs through, and he doesn't make it. Like, it had so much more energy to it, right?
Everybody
and it's like
had their way of dealing with
being
the
like,
situation.
the clock is ticking,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could have been cranked up, right? Yeah. Like going to like Rogue One, the whole ground battle and the space battle, it's cranked up the whole time. And if anything, it keeps cranking up more and more, right?
Right.
So, but it wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't bad.
I will say that. It was not bad. Yeah, they go up the tower, and I think Morgan's waiting for in the middle room right?
Yeah, but before that, what we have is Morgan goes to Thrawn and saying we're ready to leave. And Thrawn tells her that we need more time and sends her to pretty much to go fight the Jedis.
Yeah.
And basically it's for her to die. And you could tell that she knows it because he says we need more time. She's thinking like, we don't need more time. We can go now. Oh no, we need more time. And you can see how he's just looking straight faced and she's kind of looking into his eyes like, as you wish, you know what I mean? But you could tell that she's kind of like,
I feel like Morgan was kind of like, if this is what it takes, then this is what it takes. Now they could have set it up where like they're feeling under the gun because like if it had been like, oh shit, there's Ahsoka and the other two coming across the plains and we're getting ready to do our bombardment. It's like, and then you point up to the sky and like the hyperspace ring is just coming down, right? Because I think at that point it already like started the docking process. Yeah. And then it's like, well, what do you mean we don't have time? Like, we're docked. Like, why do we not have more time? If they had been like, we have to spool up the things to the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, okay. Yeah. But if it was visually like, we can see it, it's still not here yet, and they are here. We need more time. Then emotionally it lands better, I think.
I think that they were ready to go.
Go kill them.
And that's why she said that. I think that they could have took off. I think that he was playing chess. Thrawn's playing chess. He knew that I cannot turn my back on Ahsoka. I can't turn my back on her. Even if we're ahead, we're not ahead because she's still a factor.
Right.
You need to go and take care of this. And it's going to cost you. I think he knew that she wasn't going to serve. She knew that she was either going to die or get left behind. Right. But what he wasn't going to do is turn his back and have her out there. So I need somebody to at least keep her busy while we take off, because there ain't no way, no matter how far, how close everything is, she's going to be on my butt. I know her. I know her kind. I know her people. I know her master.
I know her master.
I know her master. So I think it was that. And I think that Morgan knew that. And that's why she kind of like, she didn't go against it, but it seemed like the expression on her face, she kind of knew like she was going to get left behind or die. Yeah. Like she knew that's Suicide what he was saying. Squad. Even though he didn't say that, I think she knew the situation and kind of paused and accepted it and did what she had to do, which was cool. Yeah. Because like I said, he didn't have to yell at her. He didn't have to order her or be messy. No. He just kind of like, it's interesting to see like somebody's respecting somebody even when they know what that means. You usually see so many people either like no conflict with what they're saying and they just do it, and sometimes that seems kind of crazy, like, oh, they're just a dummy and they're just doing whatever and they don't know any better. But to see people who are smart and reading the room and still going with that anyway because of respect, or I love that. That's the same thing I saw with Shin and Balin. Like even when stuff start questioning, okay, but you see in my face that I'm not understanding or I might have conflict, but yet and still, I'm still going to move because you told me to. And I love that versus just like, okay, boss. Okay, master. So I like that. It's like, oh, I know what this means. Okay, as you wish.
You can see why Thrawn is a threat, not just tactically and strategically, but his leadership style, right? Yes. Where you can see why he would be able to reanimate the remains of the Imperial remnant. So she's down waiting for Ahsoka when the three of them get up the stairs and all the doors that weren't closed.
Yep.
And Ahsoka's like, you two, go on without me. I'm going to have a badass fight, which she does.
Yeah.
And so now I will say nice things about the fight and Morgan's sword.
Have at it.
So, as I mentioned, they both look progressively more tired because they go and they fight all the way up to the top of the tower, blah, blah, blah. But like they actually look tired. Mm-hmm. 2, I seem to recall a couple episodes where I was like, oh, all these fights, you don't see people flinching away, right? Where it's like, I thought I was safe. Oh, shit, right? Sort of flinching, right? It's one thing where it's like, oh, I just dodged out of the way, right? There's a difference between, oh, I saw it coming and I dodge, and it's like, oh shit, right? You almost didn't see it and you barely get out of the way. When they're up on the top of the tower, there's specifically a point where Morgan like flinches back because she didn't read
the strike right, and she barely gets out of the way. And the fight felt more dangerous in a way, right? It didn't feel like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and swing, right? It felt more like a fight.
Yeah, it did.
So I bought it a lot more.
And the finishing move wasn't cheated. I love being able to see what kind of went with that move.
Oh yeah, you
that
could
was
actually
dope.
see Ahsoka
That was
take
dope.
her out.
I was
did
impressed.
appreciate that. Take your sword, cut with mine.
That was nice.
It was nice. And then for all the sword nerds in the gallery, they gave her a single-edged blade, right? It's not a double-edged blade. It's single-edged blade. It's not a katana. If anything, I'd call it closer to like a Chinese Dao, DAO for anyone Googling at home, Chinese Dao. It also known as like Chinese broadsword is what we called it. So I've trained on a Chinese Dao. I train on the Dao, which is just a giant or huger version of that. And one of the interesting things that you can do with the longer ones like a Dao is the back edge. Not only is it not sharp, but it's thicker because you actually can grab onto it, you can push on it, you can put the back of your wrist on it if you've got a bracer, right? And so you power assist and help control the point.
Yeah.
And she was doing all that shit, and I was like, fuck yeah, I know that move. Like, it looked really great.
She was wiping the flame. I was like, oh, that looks dope. Like,
yeah, like it, like just as a different style of sword fighting, you know, against lightsaber or not, it was really cool to see. I forget, there's some classic, you know, Kung Fu Hong Kong movie from like, I want to say the 60s, maybe early 70s. And like Eric and Jose knew it like the second I mentioned it. And I only saw it like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. And it was after I'd done all this sort of like Bagua, the Dao sword form. And they had these sort of straight broadswords, and they were doing this power assist with their second hand. And I was like, oh shit, that was like the first time I saw it like a kung fu movie, right? And I was just like, oh shit, there's other people like, and it's like, okay, this is not this form that I just learned, this long ass punishing form, right? Like that's a legit thing. So anyway, it was just really cool to see that. And it's rare that I've seen that on film. So it was just cool. And like all the things that she was doing with that other hand on the back of the blade, like it all tracked. And I was just like, dope. So yeah, they fight their way back up to the top of the tower. And meanwhile,
Sabine and
Ezra, they go up to the top of the tower. And oh no, it's the 2 Death Troopers.
Yep.
And they are already undead.
Yes. So they had to kill him another time. And we see Sabine use the Force to grab her lightsaber, and she gives them a lightsaber lobotomy. So how do you feel about her and her Force abilities?
So first she's getting choked out on a plinth, right, by the Death Trooper, and she's reaching for the lightsaber, and finally she's able to use the Force and pull it to her. And like, honestly, A-okay with it.
Okay.
For me, that's like not any different than Luke on Hoth with the ice monster, pulling his lightsaber out of the ice, cutting his feet loose, blah, blah, getting out. It's the same thing. Like, I think I was joking earlier about, I liked that they were showing Sabine getting trained and struggling and like not being able to do it. And it seemed like they weren't going to do the Doctor Strange. Well, how do I do magic stuff? Well, we just throw you on a mountain when you're going to die. And you just have to fucking do it or you die.
Right.
And they do the same thing here. Granted, they did the same thing to Luke. Right? Because that makes it dramatic, right? If it's like, oh, I've got this ability that I can count on.
But we know who his father is, too.
No, we don't. We did not know who Luke's father was in Empire Strikes Back. Not at the beginning of it, only at the end of it.
But we knew that he was special.
Yeah.
That's why he was dealing with Yoda and everybody. So we knew that he wasn't normal. How about that?
Right.
He wasn't in question. It was more of time.
Yeah. But as far as like Sabine finally pulling it through at a critical moment, that's always
yeah, that's how it goes.
That's how it goes. And it worked, right?
Yeah.
Lobotomizes him, they get out of there, helps Ezra, boom.
Okay. So
Number 2 is a bit more of a stretch.
Okay, that makes sense for that. So now we're talking about an assisted force jump.
Yeah, now here's the thing.
Would you go first?
So her suggesting it is not out of line. Her necessarily thinking, oh, if I could do that, I can do this. That's questionable.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. So the whole like, we're going to chuck Ezra with the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Ezra did that with Darth Maul. So that's a thing that happened in the Rebel show where like he jumped and then Darth Maul force chucked him the rest of the way.
Yeah.
This is when they teamed up and Maul was trying to make him his apprentice. So for one, Sabine to be like, oh, Speedball special, right? Colossus and Wolverine.
Yeah.
Knowing that move, okay.
I'm not knocking
being
the
like,
move.
I chucked the lightsaber, I can chuck a Ezra. Okay, that's a fast progression. That's a fast progression. It makes it dramatic.
I would be afraid to go first, but like I said, I wasn't questioning the idea of it. It was just her. I was more on like her ability. It's like, okay, you could do it under duress, but can you just do it for like something like this?
Here's how they could have just made it work on a better level, and it doesn't change any of the other moves they make. But when she suggests this tactic, have Sabine do 2 things. One, have her take her lightsaber, right, or even one of the Death Trooper corpses, and chuck it off the tower, and then immediately yank it back to her, right? Where it's like, I've got this, right? I've got that trick, right? But then have her just step up to Ezra and be like, and just pull him close. I did not come all this way to drop you now. Now get in the fucking ready position, right? Where it's just like, I'm not going to let you fall.
Right.
Right? If they lean on their relationship, how important he is to her as why she is 100% not going to let him fall, then you can hand wave that she's never done it before. She just figured out how to do it 2 minutes ago, right? That would have worked a lot better, but it's still a stretch.
Yeah, that would have been dope, and that's a stretch, man. Because what it made me think of was, Neo trying to do his jump, and then Cypher saying like, they never make it on the first jump,
right?
Because even Neo didn't make it on the first jump. But I knew he wasn't gonna go out like that. But I was thinking like that's a stretch, because but it's fine. And so after he gets over, and then it's like, then she jumps and he helps assist her over.
Was what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
What's supposed to happen.
She's supposed to follow.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on.
They kind of did it strategically, because they kind of cut after it as if, okay, she's next and it's going to happen. The way they cut it, the way it was edited, it was like you just assumed, because they didn't show anything after that. So you assume that she was on the ship with Ezra as well. Until the reveal.
They didn't show her making the choice. It's
like,
ready?
Yeah, because they showed her
at
looking.
That point, he showed her looking, right?
Yeah.
We're looking back at Ahsoka, and then she looks back up to him.
Yeah, and then
we cut away,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's they're trying to sell that she's gonna leave Ahsoka and go with Ezra.
Right.
And when it comes like, and this is one of those points where like it looks like Ahsoka is getting tired. The rest of the Death Troopers are now surrounded her and Morgan, and it's like, oh, it's not looking good.
Right.
And Sabine comes in and like starts fighting. Like, I wanted Sabine to go for broke and just. And there's bits of it where it's like, oh shit, she's blocking lightsaber, or she's blocking blaster bolts, but like it could have been just more intense, right?
Yeah,
it could have been shot way better, like that. It should have felt like a fucking anime. Let me put it that way. One thing anime does so fucking well is just sell motion and action, and the camera can do crazy things that's hard to do in real life, and this is sort of consistent with most of the fights in the show. It was like, okay, they're fighting, okay, did a cool thing, but like it should have been a big fucking moment, because Sabine is now
reversed her choice, right? And part of it is she got Ezra out, right? So that's an easier choice, but she's not going with Ezra, so it's not about her being with Ezra. It's about Ezra getting out, and now she's going to stand with her master, right? And having that realization when Ahsoka realizes that she hasn't left, give Ahsoka a boost of energy back, right? And just have it be this like culminating badass, we're just gonna fucking take all these Night Sister blah blah blah. And I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering, but it just didn't feel as epic as it should have been. It felt like, oh, she's going back, cool. And that was about the emotional oomph out of me.
Yeah, but that's kind of been her response and her energy towards a whole bunch of big stuff.
Well, I wouldn't even say her energy. I mean the way that the show has decided to film it and show it. Like, it just didn't feel big. And I don't mean their emotional acting about it. I feel like it should be the low point for Ahsoka. And it should be this big reversal sort of emotionally for Ahsoka, but also like Sabine just wrecking shop.
No, I get it. It's like the visual
because
language
she's not
of what's
conflicted
going on.
anymore. She did her thing. She's got Ahsoka out.
Right.
She can absolutely commit now to defending Ahsoka, right? And have her go whole hog, or any other weird analogies I'm going to make.
Yeah.
It's the big moment, regardless of what happens with them getting out with Thrawn. This is supposed to be the emotional core here of Ahsoka and Sabine, master and apprentice, right?
Yeah. Because I thought she did good. Like I said, when she was fighting the troopers stuff, she did good, and she was moving quickly and stuff. And I get it. Yeah, it could have been just how it was shot. It could have been that too. But like I said, this show hasn't really been nuanced like that. It's interesting, and regardless of what's going on, very seldom did I see points in this show where it felt epic or big. It always felt, like I said, it always reminded me of a play. Even like when Harold was talking to the council, it just, everything felt small in scale, in scope, even though I know it's a bigger thing. Like when they showed the ship and they showed, all the troopers and stuff, like some of that stuff felt big. But for the most part, it seemed like all these big things that should be big, like you said, big energy, big, it just feels, so it wasn't really there.
So as much as some people have picked apart the scene I'm going to reference here. So The Last Jedi, the throne room scene, when Kylo and Rey take on the Praetorian guards, like looking back, there's like, oh, that guy's holding his shot and he should have got it. Blah, blah. But that scene felt big.
Yes, it did.
Because it was the switch of we have each other's backs. We are literally fighting back to back. And the camera work, we're moving over here, we're moving over here, we're moving over here, we're catching this. Like it felt like someone from Hong Kong put that sequence together, right?
Yeah. But the difference is with that and this is that Sabine was busy fighting the troopers and Ahsoka was fighting Morgan. So it wasn't like we got each other's back kind of thing. It wasn't an enveloping thing. It was like two separate things. And also it almost cut the energy a little bit because they kept switching back and forth. So maybe if it was like more together working in tandem, where they was in the same shot where she's working her side and she's working her side, maybe that'd been something. Or they switched off and kind of whatever. But it's still, even though they was in the same area and they were helping each other, it was shot separately. So that probably took some of it out of it. It might have lent to some of the flow.
They could have done a thing where, again, it's sort of changing the sequencing here, but have it where Ahsoka takes out Morgan first, but all the night troopers are around her, and so immediately they just open fire. And so sort of as a callback to her during Order 66, where it's Anakin's training and she can just basically hold her ground in this circle, reflecting blaster bolts, but she's essentially pinned. She can't maintain it. Right? And it's clear that like slowly she's gonna start to lose, and it's only because Sabine shows up and attacks them from the outside that it gives Ahsoka enough breathing room, right, where she can take the other half, and Sabine can take a, they divide and conquer, and it changes, it breaks her out of the stalemate that she's not going to win.
Right, because like I said, the way it was shown, it was like two separate fights, but they were really close together. Because even after Ahsoka kills Morgan, they pretty much just, the troopers are starting to get back up, and and Sabine is running, and also Ahsoka's running, and they run to the ledge and jump off, and the troopers are kind of like, what? And they have, it almost reminded me of Back to the Future 2.
Their ship's finally back.
Yeah, they remind me of Back to the Future 2 when Marty jumped off the roof, and Biff was like, started laughing like, oh man, he jumped, and then they just kind of rise up, and you see that they didn't jump, they were on the ship.
In Firefly.
Yeah.
Did it a bunch of shows.
Yeah.
So like I was like, oh, their ship's gonna be repaired. It'll be back, right? So I feel like for someone who hasn't seen that trope, at this point, it's like a trope.
Yeah.
We jump off the cliff, but we have something there to catch us, right? It would have been probably more effective. And then it's all right, we get in the ship, and now we got to go chase Thrawn. And Thrawn's like, you fought well today, but you fucking lost. Later. I'm being glib.
No, but that's basically what it was.
I thought his speech worked, but that was what it was. It was like, you fought very well, but you did not fight fast enough.
Also, I thought was pretty dope that Thrawn was like, tells Ahsoka like, well, maybe this is where a Ronin such as you belongs. And it's like, today victory is mine. Long live the Empire. Peace out, sucker. Jay was correct.
They got left
Peace
behind.
out, sucker. I knew it. I knew this show's gonna do that mess. I knew it.
They did Empire Strikes Back tone.
I
Good
knew
guys
he was
did
gonna
not
do
win.
I was hoping that
because he had to get out. It was
no. I knew he was gonna get out, but I knew they wasn't, because they were gonna save it for that movie. But
the Ronin line was interesting because I think Ezra makes it, but I thought the Ronin line was interesting because I don't think that's ever been referenced.
I thought it was powerful. I'm like, wow.
Well, yeah, because also we know the context that Ronin are masterless samurai.
Yes.
And for an apprentice without their master.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I thought
that's.
But he would know that, and he would say some mess like that. The hardest part about that, or the dopest part about that, is that it was true. It wasn't wrong, and she couldn't disagree with it. It's almost like, well, it kind of bothered me a little bit that I won't say she was fine with being stuck, but she was kind of fine and accepting of being stuck. And I don't know how I felt about that.
I think part of her sort of tone change coming out of the dreamscape with Anakin is that she's just more go with the flow. Like, she can be caught up in the past and trying to prevent calamity and everything else, but like, honestly, her mindset now, in my opinion, is where you would want a Jedi to be, right? Because all that sort of like worrying, guilt, all those other things about like, oh, we didn't win, right? Oh, I'm gonna kick myself forever now. Those are understandable reactions, but you want to not engage with those feelings, right? They can come up. We did not win. We wanted to win. It was important that we win, but we lost, and we are stuck here now.
Yeah, and
it's almost actual stoicism.
Because I understand the acceptance of loss and maybe finding insight in them losing, right? But it's the fact that they're stranded on a planet where the last person who was stranded there was over 10 years. So it would be like, sometimes you could accept something, but almost like if they were on their own planet and lost, I can understand like, okay, we lost this time, we'll get them next time. But you are, not only did you lose, you are lost. You don't know no food. You don't know how you're gonna survive. You're not familiar with the planet, with your surroundings. So to me, stoic or not,
well, all those reactions, which I agree with, that's what a normal have Sabine do that. Have Sabine be the one that's
she didn't do it either, though.
That it didn't work.
She
Yeah.
didn't do it either.
Yeah,
But she would have been the one that would have made more sense for, like, granted,
So-
she made the choice to stay with Ahsoka and risk not going with Ezra, but she would be the one to still be pissed off.
right, because regardless if you're getting into that pan, you still reacting to the fact that the pan is hot.
Yeah.
Like, you know you're going, but
Right.
it's like, oh, it sounded like a good idea until I got here, and now
Like, I knew this was gonna suck, but now it sucks.
Now it really
sucks.
sucks. And really, the only person that I thought should have that reaction, and they did, and it made sense, was Balin, because he already committed to the situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Balin
he sought out that. Yeah, he sought out that. And so to me, if anybody would act like that, it'd be him. I thought it was a little bit of a shame that, Shin comes out of nowhere and she was out of all this stuff. And I really liked her character. So I felt like she was neglected the whole time. And so was kind of Balin neglected the whole time in a way too.
They wouldn't have had time in this episode.
I know, but
they cut to Balin. It's all one long action sequence.
No, I get it. But they had time all these other episodes beforehand. They knew that this is how it's going to be. Pack and eat before episode 8 then, because you had plenty of time to pack and eat then when stuff was just walking in circles and stuff. I understand it wasn't room for it, but I thought it was just kind of like, because when she popped up, and it was kind of neat because it was kind of a callback to the fact that when they first saw those warriors in red, and he's almost like, don't fight them, they may be, and I thought they was going to use them in a different kind of way, like the enemy of my enemy kind of thing, but it was almost like, okay, I show up my lightsaber, and I guess, that makes me part of your crew, or I'm going to run your crew or whatever. I know it's supposed to symbolize that she's going to work it out with them, even if it don't necessarily clear about how that's going to happen, but still, when I saw her pop up, I was like, wow, it'd have been good to see her mixed into all this, and the fact that she was gone the whole time. So I just wish I had more with her, but that doesn't change that, I enjoyed her character when she was around. And in Balin, he was just wandering, and he found, his formation with,
we got to talk about that.
Let's talk about it.
So I think we mentioned, I don't know if it might have been this season. I was talking about how there was some fan art of like Ahsoka and Anakin and like I think it was Kylo, and it was like done in the style of the Mortis gods, right? The three aspects of the Force. And it was like this Clone Wars episode where Obi-Wan and Anakin and Ahsoka go to this random planet, and there's like these godly beings on it.
Oh, I saw clips of that.
It's the father
and
the son and the daughter, and the father is the balance, and the son is the dark side, and the daughter is the light side, and blah blah blah. And the dark side kills Ahsoka, and the daughter sacrifices herself to bring it back, and the father's killed. And the father tells Anakin, "You will replace me."
Yeah,
right.
They had something with an owl and stuff in that too.
Yes, because the owl is like the daughter's pet, and the owl shows up in the World Between Worlds and Rebels and because. And I was like, oh no, man, if they do something with the Mortis gods, it's gonna be. I was like, nah. Dude, the statue that Balin is standing on with the arm outstretched is the father. And the one off to the side is the son, and the broken one on the other side is the daughter.
Okay.
So it's like, oh shit, okay, Filoni, you're quadrupling down on this. We are definitely in season 2. Gonna do something with the Mortis gods, and Ahsoka Sabine's theme, they're like looking up at the stars, and like Sabine's like looking up, and Ahsoka's like, did you see something? She's like, oh, this must be a glimmer of the stars. And then they turn around and they walk back to the campfire, and it's Anakin, right? Anakin Force Ghost. So here's the thing, like, God, I didn't want to go down conspiracy lane, but like, the father, the Mortis god, told Anakin and tried to convince him, you will replace me. You need to take my place. You're supposed to be the balance in the Force. Well, I mean, Anakin's free now to do that. He could literally become the balance in the Force. Balin could become the son, and Ahsoka, who's already been touched and revived by the power of the daughter and is now all in white, can become the daughter? Like, but that might be like the end of season 2 for Ahsoka. I don't know. And like the father's arm that Balin's on, that he's looking off in the distance, there seems to be some light convergence. I don't know, volcano, whatever. So clearly he's got his end goals in sight.
Yeah. I thought it was powerful. Like I said, I wish it was more of him, but I thought it was a powerful note to end on.
Fucking recast him immediately.
Like I said, or he could be changed into something else. Like I said, he could be transformed because of it.
I did see Lee Shiver.
Oh.
What was it? I think he was in the Donovan TV show.
Yeah, that's Sabretooth.
Yeah, he was Sabretooth in that horrible Wolverine movie.
Yeah.
He's a great actor. So, someone did like a composite of putting him in over Ray Stevens, and
he's one of those big burly guys. That fits.
Yeah, he's also got the size for it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that would be cool. But like, that was like oh shit, they're doing the Mortis gods. All right, okay, all right, well, all right, we'll see how that goes.
Well, we see that Thrawn make it to Dathomir. They arrive, right? So it's announced that they're there.
Yeah.
Right.
So clearly, with the Night Sisters, the mother is like, they got to deliver their cargo.
That whole thing you were talking about before. Exactly.
Right. So now, I mean, there was people like, and that's going to be his home base, and I was like, is it? Maybe. It doesn't seem like a great place, because that is a inhospitable planet. Inhospitable. So he'd probably be like, I'm going to drop you ladies off. Have fun.
Bid you adieu.
Let me know if you want to do a team up again. It's been a pleasure. Catch you later. I'm going to go off to the Imperial Remnant now and cause havoc. So yeah, they go to Dathomir, and we'll have to see whether or not the Night Sisters are going to be a recurring element in the next season or not.
Okay.
And then we get to Hera.
Yeah.
I mean, let's at least give some credit.
Okay.
Unlike the captain at the very beginning of the show, it's like, oh, here's Jedi codes. We'll have some of the security details show up. We'll call their bluff. Hera's like, get fucking everyone. Right? We don't see her say that, but like,
everybody's
there's
there.
a ton of
something
people
went out.
there.
Somebody said something to somebody.
Right?
Yeah.
They all got their guns drawn.
Yep.
And here's the thing. So Ezra comes out, but he's wearing the same, we see it at the end when he like gets on the ship. He drags away one of the night troopers that he took out. So clearly he put on the night trooper armor, and he comes down the gangplank, and everyone's like, oh, don't move. You're a stormtrooper. And then Chopper comes up, and like the dog like somehow just smells him and knows that it's him, and he pets Chopper, and he finally takes his helmet off, and he's like, hi, Hera. Right?
Chopper isn't the one with the blaster, so even though Chopper might have recognized him, it doesn't matter. That's not the one who had the gun pulled out at him. But
Chopper's got fucking war crimes. All right, so Chopper would be like, you might be my friend, but I might shoot you anyway.
Okay.
But it doesn't make any fucking sense to be wearing the stormtrooper
helmet. Exactly.
Take the helmet off.
Exactly. One, how'd you get off Thrawn's ship? But you got off, whatever, and you pulled them slow.
I can hand wave that.
And they did too.
Stormtrooper outfit.
And they
got
did
on
too.
Balin's ship. He got on Balin's ship.
And they did too.
Waited for the right opportunity. Boom.
Right. So he got there, driving it all slow in a full Stormtrooper outfit, and thinking that he's not going to get shot. Now it was just like, and then for them to have, and then the whole reveal, like they did again. Like this is my issue earlier, and they did this mess again, where somebody needs to say something and have a deeper reaction, and it's just so straight faced and so calm and no big deal. And I'm thinking like, you done seen this kid, you seen this guy as a kid, right?
Hera, go hug that boy.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like for her just be looking, and then everybody. First of all, he should have been shot, and she should have been crying over his dead body. First of all, I know this guy when he's a kid. You should have been full of holes and smoking, right? And she should have been on the ground crying. So the fact that he survived, one, with every gun on the ship pointed at him, and for him to slow remove his helmet, like any sudden moves, he'd be gone. Like people in real life lose it over less than that. So It's interesting to see that. So I feel a little ways about it, but anyway, he survives, right? Yeah, so I thought it was just like crazy that she's just looking at him, and he's like, Hera, and she's like, and she kind of cracks a smirk or something like that, and it was just like, here we go again with this. Sabine doing the same thing. It's just like, man, I don't. Why? It's deliberate. It's deliberate. I'm just curious on why. So I know it's not an accident. Why? But anyway, before it gets to the point where you just can't take it no more, then it cuts. So at least they did that. It's kind of like, I can't take 5 minutes of them looking into each other's eyes. So at least they cut it, because I was just thinking like, okay, please don't, not this again. But we know he made it safe, and we know he didn't get shot. So that's all we need to know. And
right.
Then we go.
That's all the scene does. It doesn't give us any.
Well, it wasn't doing anything anyway but looking. So if nothing was going to happen from there, it was best to leave that scene. Like I said, no hugs, no nothing, no, don't shoot. I know him. No, nothing.
You know who should have said don't shoot? It should have been Ezra when he's still back inside up on the ramp, right? You just have him go up to the cockpit and stick his face up against the glass and go, Hera, it's me. I got a beard now. I got a beard. Is it pretty? Like Ezra's a bit of a sassy wise ass in Rebels. So I could totally see him like yelling down the gangplank, being like, Hera, it's me. It's Ezra. Saying something quippy, like, really, like, don't shoot me. It took so long to get home. It would really suck to get shot at this point. Right? Like, and then have him walk down.
Even plainclothes cops get shot by cops.
Right?
Even plainclothes cops get shot by other cops that they work with in the same force. This didn't make any sense to me, but it's just like, oh.
They wanted some last bit of tension, but it only works for people that like don't understand that, like, I don't know, maybe they confused, like, ooh, who's in Balin's ship that we saw in the hangar of Thrawn's Star Destroyer? Jeez, who could this be? This stormtrooper walking, like...
Right, like, why even walk out in the stormtrooper outfit?
Ezra.
The ship is bad enough.
They're not going to shoot him, like,
right.
just the tension.
The ship,
the choice to have him come down in the stormtrooper as a character does not make any fucking sense.
They lucky they didn't blast that ship out of the air before it even got to them. They lucky that, I'm surprised they even let it dock.
Yeah.
You know what happened to the last people who let Balin's ship dock? People had problems.
Right? It would be great if they just had a thing where the ship's coming in, and instead of Hera walking in and like just having her gun drawn, have it be really fucking tense of like, everyone get in cover, like everyone blasters at the ready. Like I would have loved it. You remember in like Phantom Menace, they dock their diplomatic ship inside the Trade Federation ship, and like, they're doing the thing, and finally shit goes sideways, and then just the turret turns and just blows up their ship. Like, have Hera have all the guns pointed at this ship. That should be the reaction, and then have like Ezra like poking through the cockpit, like, hey, don't shoot. Really. Like, just take like 30 seconds of him being like, don't shoot.
Or something. Or like you said, they see the ship or whatever, and they prepare to fire, and they like open communication. They're trying to hail us and see what they're trying to say. And then you hear his voice, and she's like, that can't be right. And he's like,
right?
It's me. It's
Play
me.
that. Like,
it's me.
Don't let my hope be cheated.
Exactly. That can't be him. That can't be.
Because the other thing, they shouldn't have let it land in the first place.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He should have been outside, getting threatened to get blasted out of the sky.
Right? Can you imagine if they just cut to Hera's ship from the outside and his ship like parked, not on the ship, but like, off a distance away, and we just cut to Ezra in the cockpit, and it's just cutting back and forth to be like, all right, so like, you remember the time we were on this planet, and then this happened, and Kanan said this, and then you were like, no, and then cutting to Hera and like, okay, what about the time we were on? And it's just this back and forth, and like, oh my God, Ezra, is that really you? Yes. Now will you please let me land? Right? Like, have that where it's like, you can have this moment of Hera finally realizing that Ezra made it and he's here, and then the undercutting joke is like, and now will you please let me land? It sets up them being paranoid but wanting this reunion to happen, and then you can cut,
and that makes more sense than them just staring into each other's eyes and not saying anything, especially on her side of it.
Right.
So,
and then you could cut to them just like
in the landing bay, like him
Yeah.
coming down the ramp.
Right,
and him hugging
exactly.
and Chopper
Without
being
without
there.
getting shot.
And
Yeah.
this is my son. This is Kanan's son, Jason. Is like,
Yeah.
holy shit, Sabine didn't say anything about Jason,
Yeah.
right? Like, hey, kid.
Right.
It's just like, I hear you. You're like, oh, your mom says you're good with the Force. Like, whatever. Like, or having, oh, Ahsoka said you might need some training. Like, set it up where he might train Kanan's son, like another mass. Like,
Or I'm here, but we lost Ahsoka and
Right?
Sabine, and then she just kind of Hera looks at him just like concerned and just like, even though we won, we lost,
Hera
and
saying,
leave on
like,
that end.
like, we got you back.
Yeah.
We're gonna get them back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
Or
you can
something.
have that.
Yeah, you can have both. Like I said, you have both. You could be like, we won, but we lost. Like, we're happy to have you home, but we have to go back. We have to get them. We have to.
Right.
Leave on a note of like this on. We got to work
Right?
this out. Like, it's gonna be a minute before we get to season 2 or the movie, but know that our minds is on it and we're thinking like this. Like, we're not wasting any time. We got to get them back.
Right.
I can't leave them there. Like, they came and got me. I can't
Right.
do that to them.
We couldn't come get you because we
Yeah.
didn't know where you were.
Yeah,
We know where
something.
they are. We're getting them
We're getting back.
Right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
they didn't.
They didn't, but it is what it is. And so we go back to Ahsoka and Sabine, and Ahsoka says that, it's time for them to move on. And we kind of discussed this already, so it is what it is. And yeah, like you said before too, Sabine notices
Some glimmer
something
in the stars.
in the stars, and Ahsoka's looking over, kind of smirking like she does. And I don't know if we get confirmation that she knows that is him, but we do see that is him, and he's kind of looking back upon her, and he's looking kind of like pride on his face, probably because he knows that the two are together.
Right.
So almost confirming the fact that she's
I
saying
mean,
that we should be there and where we're supposed to be, and he kind of confirmed that in a way.
Yeah. I think I'm not quite as disappointed in that scene as maybe you were. Like, with sort of like, Ahsoka just being like, well, we're here. We're just gonna deal with the situation as is.
Yeah.
But she is more going with the flow. I didn't feel like she saw Anakin.
I don't think so either.
I don't
Yeah.
think she saw his Force ghost.
Yeah.
I think if I was writing it, I would keep that for later of Anakin showing up again as a Force ghost, right? But having it where clearly he's watching over them, right? That's a very nice touch.
Yeah.
It's interesting too. I mean, if we hadn't had episode 5 where we got like him in the world between worlds going with all her flashbacks and his appearance changing so many times, right? In her flashbacks, when like he's taking on aspects of Vader and stuff, because there was people like when he shows up at the Force Ghost, he's wearing darker robes, right? Not like Sith robes, but like what he would wear if he was a Jedi Master, right? But I seem to recall when they added him into Return of the Jedi, where he shows up with Obi-Wan and Yoda's Force ghosts, and it's young Anakin, it's Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
He's wearing the lighter tones.
Yeah.
Right? So it's one of those things like it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking, it's like people are like, why was he wearing darker robes when we showed up as a Force ghost in the other time? Who the fuck cares? Like he can change his appearance. Who gives a shit? He could go into his Force ghost wardrobe and put on a different outfit. Boom.
He's transparent. He was standing in front of a mountain range, so therefore it looked darker.
Right.
Whatever. Yeah.
This season.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not disappointed. It was better than I thought, and it ended the way I thought it was going to end, to be honest. So therefore I wasn't disappointed, even though I did want more. It kind of happened like I kind of thought, but
it was good enough.
It was good enough. Yeah, right.
So it's an easy question of, was it more good than bad? Did the good?
Yeah, of course it was good. It was good.
Parts of it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the show.
There we go.
It wasn't like yeah. Like I said, I think of myself being more like I think of myself as more or less being kind of like a spoiled kid, because we had stuff that really kind of touched the tone of a thing. And so just having that, it's almost kind of like you know enough to know what you want. And with that, sometimes it makes it difficult to get it. And so that doesn't change the fact that I'm getting something from it, that I'm getting enjoyment from it, that it's more information than I had, that you know, even if it's not exactly what I want, it's more than I had before. I'm glad they made the show. I enjoyed it. I got some, you know, new characters to root for and to, you know, to go along with. So it was cool. Like I said, it's not a bad show. Yeah.
But apparently there's a season 2, so like it may not go straight to we're gonna tie everything up in a movie. I would imagine. Okay, God, stupid. Do prediction shit again. God. They would get Sabine and Ahsoka back into the main galaxy. They do, or maybe Ahsoka stays in the other galaxy as part of the Mortis gods, and that's why Ahsoka doesn't show up in the trilogy, the sequel trilogy. Blah blah blah. But Sabine comes back, and now it's Sabine and Ezra and Hera and and that sets up the stage for Thrawn in whatever the movie is. And Mando's doing all his stuff where he's taking jobs for the New Republic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to set up all the other things that need to happen for the Thrawn movie.
Yeah. Like I said, season 2 or a movie, regardless, I would have preferred more resolve than this for something I know I gotta wait a while for. Whatever it lands on, like I said, a show or a movie, I was kind of hoping it'd be something that I wouldn't have to wait a while to get the resolve. But I guess in a way, if the cliffhanger part was them being left behind, if they're feeling good about it and everybody who's there seems to be all right with it, then it's not a thing of they're under duress and they're waiting for us to come back to see them to be okay.
Right. We're not
so
left anxious.
Yeah,
right?
they resolved. They're fine with their situation that they're
vague,
in. Yeah.
Right. And Thrawn's a vague threat. He's got to build up his forces, so he's not immediately going to worlds and shooting the population, blah, blah, blah,
Right,
blah.
right. So if it would have been just a cut to black with them stuck behind, that would have been more tense than us. You know, like I said, I don't know if she's saying that she's fine there for us. So since we're going to be waiting on the resolve for her or not,
right.
but that's fine. It's a Star Wars show. And like I said, not at one point did I be like, hey, I hate to watch this, so I have to talk about it. I was always looking forward to the episodes and looking forward to them and enjoyed what I saw. And for most of these episodes, I saw twice. And, you know, I could have watched it one time and took some notes down or whatever. But like I said, they're entertaining enough to watch multiple times, and that's fine. And some episodes were more fun rewatching than others, but it was never like I had to, you know, oh man, I got to watch this again. I enjoyed them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's enough there.
Yeah.
There's definitely enough there.
Definitely. So did you have any other final words on this or this season or anything you looking forward to? Or do we know what's up next for the next show that's coming out? As far as like Star Wars stuff, anything coming out next for Star Wars related?
I don't know the specific progression, but I know they're supposed to have Mando season 4.
Okay.
And presumably an Ahsoka season 2.
Okay.
And then I think the movie. Okay. I could entirely be wrong, but I know Mando 4 is supposed to be happening. I saw one thing talking about season 2 of Ahsoka, but it wasn't from a normal source that I trust. So I'm just like, all right, whatever, internet.
Right. Okay.
So we'll see. I mean, man, I really want them to nail Thrawn. Like,
do you have faith that it will with what you've seen so far? I dug him. I thought he's pretty. I thought, you know, I'm sure he's not exactly.
There's elements of him they absolutely nail. I feel like, again, like his demeanor, the way he engaged with the subordinates, the respect he gave to his opposition. Right? But they did not make me feel like, oh shit, this guy's a fucking genius. Like, they didn't make me go and like, holy shit, he's impressive. And the fact that our heroes managed anything at all, even they caught up with him. Holy shit. They did so good. He was so tough, right?
he made all these moves ahead of time. Da 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 da. Like, you really should feel like, oh shit, why is Batman in Star Wars and why is he working for the Empire? It should feel like that.
I think that if they would have gave us that, then it would have been a massacre early on. I don't think our characters were equipped for that, and unless you're willing to
not in the way that they wrote, not in the way that
right,
they wrote
exactly. So if they were going to up them on their side,
if you want to up
yeah, you want to up it, you got to up them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So almost like the Wakanda conversation we had too. If you're gonna play that thing, Talokan versus Wakanda, you want to don't dumb one down. So yeah, but like I said, I haven't seen quite a bad guy like him, and especially in Star Wars, because usually they're, I won't say overacting, but they're almost borderline mustache twirling. So to have him that even key the whole time, and he's, you know, talking softly the whole time without, you know,
it's refreshing.
It's really neat. It's really neat to see, and I really enjoyed his portrayal. Like I said, I know it's probably not exactly like how he normally is, but like I said, he was a lot for our characters in this situation, and being how the tone of everything is, he went well.
Yeah, and you know, to his portrayal, like how they presented him. Yeah, I think they nailed it. It was just like his I'm actually doing a strategic thing now, and it's like, come on, writers,
right?
You can
show it.
I also just would, for our dear listeners, like to reiterate, writing's hard. Writing's very hard. So don't take me complaining like, oh, this could be better. Oh, they could have done this. Being like, I could actually do better in the crazy narrow writing timelines and deadlines that a lot
I was about to mention that too.
So,
yeah, that's definitely a factor, because a lot of times
like it's like
detail
I
come after the second and third. Right,
with the skeleton of the plot that you've already created for me. Well, I would do all these other very clever things, and it's like, yeah, okay. So basically, they baked the cake, and you came along and put the cherry on top. After they put the icing on and wrote happy birthday, you put the candle on and be like, the candle would be better placed over here.
And the thing is, with art, you could do that, and that's usually how it goes. You have time to sit the canvas back and walk away for a few days and come back and be like, oh, I'm missing this or missing that, or this will add to it. But since this is basically a product, it is what it is. And sometimes, you know, you could have the nuances in the beginning, have that foresight, and sometimes it's just like, I just need to get it done. We need them there. What's the quick thing we could do to make it happen without it looking too obvious that we just had to come up with that, or we had to make this last minute change. So in that lens, it's a miracle that it came out, and it's good considering. But like I said, and I think also all the stuff that we like, all these movies and shows are the quality that we've been in for a while now. I think it's due to timing. The fact that they were saying we have to have a Star Wars movie every year, that there's 12 or 20 or 30 Marvel movies all going at the same time. Everybody is spread thin. And so now we know special effects and computer graphics are, you know, unreal, that it's so real. So when those start looking bad, you know, things are being rushed and stressed. Then we know the writers and all that stuff have to take a hit as well. It has to. It's a lot going on constantly. I think only thing that really get a chance to shine now is stuff that's being left alone or have plenty enough time to really, you know, marinate. It sounds like, especially with like Marvel and stuff, that they're going to start slowing down. And I think possibly with Star Wars, they're going to start doing less stuff and having, you know, trying to get better with their quality. But I think Marvel for sure was talking that, and I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to make a big difference. I think our appetite is just really big, and we can't have it both ways. We can't have it all the time when we want it and expect it to be the best thing. Those things do not go together.
Yeah, no, and it's to the how hard it is to like actually do writing, and like it's like Dave Filoni worked on Clone Wars, and he worked on Rebels and like Mandalorian, and it's like it's hard to keep going back to the well and like come up with a fresh new thing, right? Like, again, hello audience, I'm a giant fucking nerd. I run D&D and like a Star Wars campaign, like, role-playing games. And I've been doing that now for like, I don't know, 6-8 years. It's hard to keep coming up with fresh stuff where it's like, I got mostly the same players, and it's like, how do I come up with a new scenario that they haven't run into, or a new villain that's not just like, oh, you ripped off so-and-so, right? So like, as much as it's like, well, why didn't they come up with all these 20 clever things for like Thrawn to do? And it's like, I don't know, fuck. Maybe they felt like they've done that before, or they like, oh, they saw this other show, and it's like, well, if we do that, then we do like this.
We're saving it for something else. We don't know what they got going down the line. It might be a part of something else. So they can't touch those. That's what happened a lot of times with characters. You'd be like, how come that character's not in here? Because they're using it for something else, and they don't want to cross the streams. Yeah, so it's interesting. But like I said, enjoyed it. I also enjoyed conversating with you about it, as always.
What a shock. What a shock.
I'm looking forward to our next conversation, undetermined, but sooner than we all think.
Well, geez, if Loki's on the table and maybe a The Fountain movie review.
For sure.
A retro review.
I think that would be dope.
Jeez, man, Jay, we're just going to have to keep finding reasons to hang out and do a podcast. Life is so rough. Fucking first world problems, my friend.
I know. But I'm glad to be in the trenches with you. I appreciate you. All right, so that was Jay and Ryan. We were talking about Ahsoka Part 8.
The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord.
All right. Till next time, peace.
Back in the right galaxy this time. I think I've beaten that joke with a dead horse now.
I think it's funny that you keep using it.
Stop! He's already dead.
It's already dead.
Don't worry, the Night Sisters will bring it back again.
That's funny.